I think this falls in the category of shameless self promotion, but I would like to congratulate my brilliant producer, Walker Vreeland, for being nominated for the Outstanding Production of an Audiobook as Best Producer by the Voice Arts Awards.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor just to be nominated. And I would like to let everyone know that Milton will be teaching a masterclass this month in Stockholm, Sweden. And then in April 2024, he'll be doing a masterclass at Shot Acting Studio in Berlin. If anyone would like more information on these masterclasses, if you are in Berlin or Stockholm, you can contact me, questionsformilton@gmail.com. And if you would like Milton to come to your studio, art center, school, community, synagogue, etc., you can contact me as well. Questionsformilton@gmail.com. Welcome to I Don't Need an Acting Class with Milton Justice.
All right, Shane.
As you go through life reaching and achieving and always striving high, at some point you will have a fall. And I want you to remember that when you do, it's going to feel a lot like failure. But I want you to know this, that
All right, here's okay. We need to go back to what you got before.
Okay. I know that was really terrible.
Well, it wasn't that it was terrible. It's just like you move in. Here's the thing: you move into performance mode.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is to figure out how to keep you from being in performance mode. What can we give you? What can you do?
Yeah, I just keep worrying about not hitting all the points. And I know that's like the opposite of the point. I gotta trust more. To just go for it. I'm just so wrapped up and worried about you're not gonna hit all the points. So I'm clinging to that. And
Yeah, I have a feeling. I think what happens is that when we start working on sequence of thoughts, that we're not working on sequence of thoughts. We're trying to get everything. Whereas working on sequence of thoughts is really, first I talk about part of succeeding is failing. Then I talk about the fact that that's okay. Then I talk about whatever. In other words, I go from thought to thought. Then what I need to do is free associate, improvise, whatever, around the first thought. So I know that thought. If you want to succeed, you gotta know you're gonna fail. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. I mean, nobody has a road where all they do is succeed and all they do is succeed and all they do is succeed, except in Hollywood, where people have a tendency to fail upwards. It's like you kind of go through it and say, okay, now I kind of have a sense of the first thought. So now what's the second thought? Yes, second thought is, and it's going to feel like failure. It just does. You're going to think you failed, and it's going to be awful. It's like failing a driving test. You just feel like, oh my God, I failed. I'm not worth anything. Imagine being an actor and not getting an audition. And every time you just think to yourself, oh my God, I failed. I'm not worth. See what I mean? So in other words, what I'm doing as my work process is just going through and making sure that I know the thoughts. It also helps me go from one thought to the other, because then I know where the second thought comes from. It is your process that is our problem at the moment.
Okay.
I think what you're doing is you're thinking, knowing what the sequence of thoughts is is that I have to memorize the sequence of thoughts, and I don't.
Okay.
Did you, JP, because you have the longest monologue in history, did you just work through the thoughts?
Yeah, that's where I started. I understand what the first thought is. Then I can go to the next thought because you need to know where the next thought came from, like you just said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that took a while. Took a week, just understanding so you could sort of, paraphrase it or understand what those ideas are and move through it that way. Yeah, and then they're there eventually after a while. Going back and making sure you got it right. Yeah, that was my process.
Which makes total sense to the remedy of my problem is the fear of I'm not going to know where to go next, and so if I really understand the thought and then the next thought, that takes all that away.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Do another one. Choose another one.
Oh, a different one?
Yes, choose another one. I want you to get sequence of thoughts, but you've learned this one too much.
I think so.
You've learned it so much that unfortunately, it's almost like you've memorized the words, and like every time you do the same words, which is yeah, and it's cutting off your creative impulses. And I want you to get those. I want you to feel looser with what you're capable of. I think that I don't find I can't learn French, but I can for some reason learn easily sides. I mean, and I'm not auditioning, but I'm working with people on sides. And the reason I can is because I look at the sides as a sequence of thoughts and then wrap the words around them, because the words are not that difficult. They're really not. There is no writer out there that we look at and say, oh my God, this is another Tennessee Williams.
Yeah. I'm really excited to do it because I think this is going to be so important for me because I'm really stuck on the, jumping from the text, and like you said, it's the death of it. I've got to get off it and have, be brave enough to go with the thoughts and the ideas rather than the words. And, this is going to be tremendously helpful. And I think, you're totally right. I've memorized it too much and I keep grabbing onto it like a fail safe. So if I pick another one and start fresh, I think that would be great.
Yeah. It's not like you're working on Major Barbara and
I know, and it's on one hand, it's like completely destroying me. So I'm like, I can't believe I can't do this, but at the same time, I'm like, it's a really important thing that I
got to tell you something. I have always had this feeling that if you can do something I love and something I hate, i.e., my exercise for connecting, and you can get sequence of thoughts, it's all you need for television. I mean, I really think if I can connect to it and I know what the sequence of thoughts are and I can own them, once in a while, I have to have a character. And then, I may turn the dial on something so I can come up with something that's, more interesting or, whatever. But that's all tricks. The basic thing is really I have to connect and I have to know what I'm talking about. And it's almost like, day 1 and day 2 exercises is really all you need to do television. But they're that basic and that difficult that you keep having to go back to them. Because we don't have a sense of sequence of thoughts. Because we see words and sentences. We don't see thoughts. And it'll also keep us from playing to the end of the sentence, which is another tendency we have when we go to the words too fast. If you want to be a success, you're going to be a failure. We died at the end of the sentence. And so, and that's just one of those things that actors do that's really difficult to get over, because everybody plays to the end of the sentence. And so they nosedive at the end of the sentence. All right? Got it?
Got it. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to try on the next class.
Good. I think I think, bless our hearts. Oh, here we are. Can't hear it? I mean, the reason that I found it so interesting working on 5 auditions of Caleb's in 1 hour was we had to come up with something right away. So with each one, we came up with one specific thing. And with each one, it was different, because with one, it's like, I don't even remember. They were so insignificant in terms of, it wasn't like we were doing Eugene O'Neill here. But with one, we had a clarity of the character. With another one, we had a clarity of the action. With it's just like we just sat there and said, okay, so this is a scene where what he's doing is. And then we would go through, and with the thing Shane likes of mine, of just making a little mark where we change subjects. And so, and the joy of, I have to say, the joy of film scenes and TV scenes is that, there's really only like one thing happening in a scene. I mean, the structure is something exists when you go in, there's a change, and then something different exists when you come out. So it makes sense. First of all, you circle the line where the change is, even though I don't make Caleb circle it, but I always sort of say, and there's a change here, and then something happens, but that's just TV structure. And all scenes last about a minute and a half. Just like a page. Do they still, Austin, do they still hand you a little Xerox of all the scenes you're doing today?
Oh yeah, like a little sheet. But like our actors, they're not worried about pacing at all. Which is, like that's how, like they really let everything breathe and let it come to, and it's so fun to watch. So that's why I'm like, I'm listening to that, but like I'm not really. And I totally agree with what you said.
Yeah, no, it's like you enjoy watching certain characters do what they do.
I Don't Need an Acting Class is created and hosted by Milton Justice and produced by me, Walker Vreeland. The opening track is by Jeffrey Keezer. It's called Miriam from his album Wildcrafted Live at the Dakota. And the closing track is Green Tea by Vendla. If you could, we would just love it if you would subscribe to the podcast and rate it and review it. You can find us online at idon'tneedanactingclass.com and on Instagram at idon'tneedanactingclass. As always, if you have a question or a comment, please email Milton, questionsformilton@gmail.com, and who knows, he might address yours on the podcast. So again, that's questionsformilton@gmail.com. Hope you have a great week. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.